This is the lesson for Chapter 2, Section 4, day number 2, on rotation of images that are rotated at, first of all, 270 degrees. Now, when we rotate something 270 degrees, it goes through the 90 degree, through the 180 degree, all the way up to the last point before it reaches 360. So this point right here, this x-axis, is going to eventually become the y-axis. And you know, we see that when we go the other way. So if I go the other way, I see x ending up being the y-axis. So when we talk about a clockwise 270, it's the same thing as a counterclockwise 90 degrees. They're exactly the same thing. So when we do this, B is going to end up being right here. B is going to move up to this spot. A is going to end up moving here. Notice how x, this is going to end up becoming our y-axis. This is going to go up right to this spot, no matter which way you do it. Whether you go all the way around this way, or you just go back this way, it's going to form the same thing. C is going to be in that same quadrant, so it has to go over in this spot right here. So that's going to be C prime, this is B prime, and this is A prime. And that's what our figure ends up looking like. So the same as a counterclockwise 90 degrees. We'll see the same thing on this one, so I got the same image, but this time we're going counterclockwise. So again, this part right here, this will become our y-axis, and look where it's going, counterclockwise 270. So here's 90, here's 180 degrees, and we have to bring it all the way down here to make a 270 degrees. So that means it's the same thing as saying if the y-axis, this would be the negative y in this case, the negative y-axis would bring you right down here. So if we do a counterclockwise 270, it's the same thing as saying going clockwise, same thing as clockwise 90 degrees. And so those are exactly the same thing. So let's see where that puts us. So if I was to do this, this again becomes our negative y-axis because it's going to end up down here. And when we go ahead and do that, that means that this axis right here is going to end up moving up one space. So this will become our positive y-axis. So this ends up coming up here, and that becomes our positive y. So let's see where this puts us. AB, if you move this axis straight down here, AB is going to be parallel to it. So it's going to go here and here for A and for B. And then C, well, C is just going to be opposite of B, making that right angle. Notice how they're all in the first quadrant. So when they come down 90 degrees clockwise or 270 degrees counterclockwise, it keeps them all in that same quadrant. So we'll end up seeing C at this point here. And so those are A prime, B prime, and C prime. And we'll go ahead and make the shape. And so that's what we end up seeing. So if you see 270s, you can also always think of them going just the opposite direction, just 90 degrees. Let's take a look at the next problem. So the next one asks us to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, which we've done before, but this time it says something else. Before it was about the origin. Now it's about a vertex. And so we're going to rotate about the vertex A, so this point right here. And so what we're going to end up doing is to first take a look at which way we're rotating. We're going counterclockwise. And so when I rotate counterclockwise, that means we are bringing it up into this location here. And so I'm going away the opposite direction of the clock. So I'm rotating about this point, and these values are going to end up moving up. And so we're going to end up seeing B moving up counterclockwise up into this spot right here. C is going to follow B and be right behind it, making that 90 degree angle. And that's what we'll end up seeing. So this is B prime, this is C prime, and A prime. So counterclockwise 90 degrees. Let's take a look at a clockwise 90 degrees about vertex B, so about this vertex right here. And since we're going this time, we're going clockwise, we're going to bring this side up. So notice B is where it's staying stationary. We're holding it down right there, and then A is going to end up moving. So you see how this makes a vertical line? Well, when we rotate 90 degrees in the clockwise rotation, it's going to end up bringing us making a horizontal line. So A is going to just kind of slide up over here, and then C is going to follow suit. It's going to fall down, and you notice how this right angle is right there. So we need to be a right angle with respect to this line AB. So C is going to end up being right down in here. So there's C. We'll have our shape. And let's take a look at the next one. And so now it says rotate 180 degrees about vertex C. So 180 degrees is going to bring, and we're going about this vertex right here, it's going to bring this B value all the way over to the opposite side. So it's going to make a straight line going across right here. But look where A is. When A rotates up, it's going to rotate all the way around, and it's going to go 180 degrees. So when we bring A up, notice how A is below B here, but when we bring it up to the other side, it's going to end up being above B. And so there's A prime, here's B prime, and then C prime. Well, C is going to be held down, so that's where we're going to end up. Let's take a look at the next one. Now it says to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin, and then translate. So let's do this. We're doing a sequence here. So a sequence means we got more than one transformation going on. So let's start with this 90 degrees counterclockwise. So counterclockwise means we're going to the left, and so when we do that, we're going to end up bringing this image into the fourth quadrant. And so when you see this point right here, this is going to end up becoming our new x-axis, and this x-axis up here is going to become our new y-axis. And so this will end up becoming our y. So if we picture this, kind of see where this is, you see how CB is parallel to this line right here. So we need to make sure it stays parallel to it. And so when I look at that, C is going to end up, as this line comes down, is going to end up being right at that same spot. See how this line right here, again, this axis is going to fall down over to this spot right here. So that C value is going to end up being in this same spot. And then B, well, B is going to be exactly opposite. See how it kind of works away from or perpendicular to this line? Well, it's going to do the same thing over here. It's going to end up right at that location. And then we have A. Well, A and C make a right angle. So CB is going to be at right angle to AB. So A is going to work its way up. And that kind of makes sense because this line right here is going to be up into this location. And so in that case, it's going to end up only being one space away as it is over here. So this is part of it. I'm going to just draw a dash line because this is not the final transformation. We've got one more thing. See, now it says to translate right 3 and down 2. So right 3 spaces. So we have to go 1, 2, and then I ran out of room here. There's 3. But then I have to go down 2. So 1, 2. So we're going to end up being right there. Maybe I'll do this in a different color to show that. And then we take this one, the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and then down 2. 1, 2. So this is A double prime, B double prime. And then we have C. So right 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, and down 2. 1, 2. And that is C double prime. So that's the image we're looking for there. And so those are my coordinates. Now I'm going to write a rule for it. So the rule goes this way. We start with X and Y, and then we went to, well, when we do a counterclockwise rotation, we end up seeing that image. We see let's take a look at B here for right now. And B is 3 spaces to the left, and it's 3 spaces down. Well, when I look at B prime is over here, and see how that's 3 spaces to the right and 3 spaces down. 3 spaces right, 3 spaces down. And notice how it changed. One of those values stayed the same sign, but the other changed to its opposite. So the rule for the rotation of counterclockwise is that we have the Y and the X switching, but notice how now the X value, which is really the Y, or was the Y, switched signs. And so that's a negative Y comma X. And so once we do that, though, then we follow what the pattern says, and it says to go right 3 spaces, so we're taking that y value there, and we're going right 3, so y plus 3, and then we took the x value, and we went, let's see here, not y, but x right there, so let me change that. And so we have, let's change that, so we have our y value here, or y plus 3, and that's y because, remember, we changed it to y here, and this was negative. And then our x value, our x is, we went down 2, but our x is now our y, so we have x minus 2. So let's take a look at the next one here. And we have a rotation of clockwise about the origin. And so we rotate this about the origin going clockwise this time, 90 degrees. So for this side right here is going to end up moving up to this location. And so when I think about that, this right here is our y value, and you see how c is just one space over. And so we'll just go one space. So since we're going clockwise, not counterclockwise, so this y is actually going to come down to the x value. And so this is going to end up coming up in this location. And then this spot right here is going to become our new y. So let's take a look at what we've got going on. So this line right here is going to be located right in this region. So you see how B is right on top of this line. And so we're going to put a mark right there for B prime. And then C is in the 4th quadrant, so it's going to go one quadrant over, and it's going to be located right there in the 3rd quadrant. So that's C prime. And then A prime, well, it's in the 3rd quadrant, so it goes straight up into the 2nd quadrant, and it is right above B, so it's going to end up being right in this spot. And so that is A prime, B prime, C prime, but then they have us or actually in this case, reflect it. So we're supposed to reflect over the x-axis. So when we do that, we'll go ahead and B will not move at all, so that's going to stay where it's at, but A goes down right back to where it was before, so that's going to be A double prime. C is going to end up moving up one space right there, so that's C double prime. So that's what we end up seeing as our reflection. And so we have to write the little rule for that. So what happened? Well, we have xy, and then when we rotate something clockwise, it's going to end up being a y negative x, and then we reflect. And so when we reflect, over the x-axis, the y's are changing. So we're going to keep the y value. Let's see here. We have the y values end up changing, so we have x's stay the same, so we'll keep that y. But then since the y values change, we're going to change that back to x. And so that's what we end up seeing there. So those are that type, and now we have to describe the sequence of transformations. And there's a couple different ways we could do this. One way to do it is, let's go ahead and turn this. Let's turn this in the clockwise or counterclockwise rotation here, and then we'll see how C, or this line right here, ends up just falling down to this spot right in here. And so if it does, we'll end up having this line again will represent this one, so C will be here, and B will be here, and then A will be straight across from it, right, in this location. From there, you can see how it's going to end up being reflection. So we could rotate counterclockwise 90 degrees, then reflect across the y-axis. So that's one way we could end up doing it. You can see how that would be a perfect reflection there. And let's see what happens if we take this and we go clockwise. So if I go clockwise 90 degrees, this line right here will end up going here. This will become the new y-axis. So if that's the case, if this is my new y, you're going to end up seeing B and C, which were parallel to that new y-axis, going in those two locations. And then A and B, which are parallel to this line, which ends up becoming the x-axis, is going to end up being down here. Oops, not quite that far down. Erase that part. It's going to go on this side over here. And so we see that A and B, since this is B, those two have to be lined up. That's why this one didn't work out. But if this is B and this is C and this is A, you'll see how when we go ahead and draw this in, you see how we could end up reflecting it. See, this is a reflection of the image we want. So if we rotate clockwise 90 degrees, then reflect across the x-axis. That'll get us to our spot. So those are the types of problems you're going to end up seeing. Good luck.